And we have to have a dramatic improvement in our public education system. I know it's up about knee-high now. We had good fourth grade reading and math tests, but we're not where we need to be. Even with Jeb Bush's accountability, we need to do a lot more. We need to be up here, not only for our kids, but to be able to lure businesses here and to be able to attract them. And I'm not talking just about K through 12. I'm also talking about the state, the community colleges, the universities. And we need meaningful, significant litigation lawsuit reform. We have to be competitive. Miami has the highest malpractice insurance premiums of any major city in the country, and the state of Florida today has the highest medical malpractice insurance premium of any of the states of the United States. And I got a big target on my back from the trial bar, just like Will said we have about ACLU, because my general election opponent certainly doesn't believe in that. But we're going to have meaningful litigation reform when I'm there to reduce the cost of business, to bring about more doctors into our state, and to provide the opportunities that we need for our children and our grandchildren. And while I don't have time to talk about them tonight, we're also going to address those really tough issues of property insurance, property taxes, and water, and wait for a couple of days because I have a new property tax plan that's going to come out, and it's very soon that it's coming out. Now, let me tell you something. I want to tell you squarely about two things tonight, because I've been hearing a lot about it. I want you to know about these. Well, and as I lead into it, I've got to make one comment about my beliefs, because I go to a group like you, and you look at me and you say, what's the single most important thing you're going to do as governor? What do you think it is? I'll tell you what it is. It's appointing judges. It's who I appoint, but particularly judges. And I'm going to appoint judges who interpret the Constitution strictly according to the way the Founding Fathers intended. The Constitution is not a living document. It is a very well-defined constitutional body that gives us our liberties and our freedoms. Now, I start with that premise because that's the heart of what a conservative is. And so when somebody says, hey, who are you? That's who I am. Now, I've got an opponent out there that's got hundreds of millions of dollars in the Republican primary. Came out of nowhere 2 months ago. Puts up slick, good-looking ads saying, I'm the one. Vote for me. I'm more conservative. I'm over to the right of McCollum. I'll tell you, anybody who's watched me for any years, it's pretty hard to be to my right. But he's sure trying. And the truth is that he's got deceptive ads. He's got misleading ads. We have some resources we've had to hold back. I can't spend them. I don't have the kind of money he's got. I can't answer all those. But I'm going to answer some of those squarely for you tonight. First of all, those of you who don't know me, I'm the one who led the fight in Congress against amnesty. I'm the guy who did that for years. I offered the amendment to the bill in 1986 to strike amnesty from it on the floor of the House. I wish we'd won it then. It was a small amnesty compared to what we want to do now. We lost it by 5 votes. I'm the guy who was out there fighting to control our borders before it was cool to fight to control the borders. I served on that immigration committee. I knew the story there. I favor legal immigration. I think that's one of the great things about America, is we have legal immigrants who come here, but they need to come here legally. And when they don't come here legally, and they're hired by people, they're now a violation an employer is of a law that I helped get passed that makes it illegal to knowingly hire an illegal immigrant. The only problem is the Immigration Service hasn't enforced that law. And that law needs to be enforced. And we need to control our borders, enforce that law, and have an orderly process about immigration. And I got an opponent that wants to put up a big fancy ad that says, hey, you know, I favor the Arizona immigration law, and I want to bring it to Florida. And McCollum says maybe we don't need it. And then he puts down at the bottom at the end, why I favor that immigration law is I want to allow local law enforcement officers to be able to check when they arrest somebody to see if they're an illegal immigrant. Well, I got 2 things for you. Number one is, as it was amended 2 weeks after it was first passed, and as it has been for some time, I strongly support the Arizona immigration law. And not only that, but I will tell you what, today, all that he's proposing in his ad, we already allow. All of our police officers in Florida can go check that out. They ought to be doing it. They ought to get their butts kicked if they don't, Will. So you and I are going to work together, which is what Snyder's talking about, to strengthen our existing laws in Florida. We're not out here to pass the Arizona law as such. We're out to pass a Florida law. That's what we're going to pass. We're going to be as tough as you can be on immigration in our state for a state. Now we're still going to need some help from the federal government, which we haven't gotten, and which we are not getting in as much under this administration as we did the past, and that wasn't very good. And I want to address another issue with you. I don't know how many of you are, but I have 100% in Congress pro-life voting record. This guy, but before I go off of that, though, but before I go off of that, I got to tell you one other caveat. I got to tell you one other caveat: immigration. I don't know how many of you take Red State or watch Red State. I understand today, and I have forgotten about this, and I'd be kicked for forgetting it. I understand today they came out and exposed Rick Scott for something. He owns a very large interest in a remittance company, and that remittance company has been sending back the checks of illegal immigrants working in this country to Mexico, and Rick Scott is hypocritical because he's running around with all these ads like this, and he is not even trying to get control that I know of his own company, his own business. And that's on Red State today if you want to see it. But let's talk about pro-life for just a second. I had a 100% pro-life voting record. He's sending out stuff saying McCollum's whatever, I'm not, okay? In mailings in this case. But I will tell you what, on embryonic stem cell research, I have never supported and never will support funding for embryonic stem cell research. I never have. And I'll tell you something else. Today, I also believe that with the advent of science, adult stem cells are perfectly suited to any research we possibly need. I am pro-life. I'm for the life of the mother. I'm certainly for the life of the child. And I'm for us finding adoptive parents for those embryos. That's the way we ought to be going. And that's the way we ought to be seen. And I've got to add a footnote to that, too. Rick Scott, when he was the head of Columbia HCA, not only ripped off the taxpayers to the tune of billions of dollars, he pocketed about $300 million for himself out of HCA. Then he left, and he's now used that as the basis for his wealth to run these ads. So I have to ask the question, who knows who Rick Scott really is? But then you have to also realize that Columbia HCA, while he was the CEO, performed elective abortions. He was picketed for that, and today he has a piece of literature out saying he's the pro-life leader. And not only that, today he owns a pharmacy company, a big group of pharmacies, a chain out in California called Pharmaca, and they sell without prescription the morning after pill. So who's being hypocritical about this? All I'm suggesting to you is not what you believe in one of these issues or not, but I'm suggesting to you that you need to know who you're voting for and who you're rallying around, not just the guy who has the most money, who's running the cleverest ads. You want a conservative. You want somebody that believes in the principle of this country. You want somebody with honesty and integrity. You don't want to be experimenting. You don't want to be starting out with a rookie, as Will Snyder said. You want somebody who's going to be your next governor of Florida, who's going to lead this state. Lead this state. That's what it's about. It's about bringing people together. It's about making government work. It's about making government where it needs to be smaller, and it's about standing up to the federal government and standing up for the rights of Americans, individual liberty, freedom, free enterprise, the marketplace, the basic limited government system that our founding fathers gave us, and that's what I stand for, and that's why, with your help, I'm going to be elected the next governor of Florida. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I know I'm supposed to take questions. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Now, you want me to sit